It was a rainy Thursday afternoon in the small town of Bellevin, and Mark Dalton, a single father of one and a carpenter by trade, stood by the window of his modest home, sipping lukewarm coffee as the drops tapped gently on the glass. Life hadn't been kind to Mark. 2 years ago, he lost his wife, Anna, to cancer. Since then, every day had been a struggle raising their son Liam alone, balancing work, grief, and trying not to fall apart. His world had become silent, routine, and emotionally gray. Mark wasn't the kind to seek attention or pity. He went to work, helped his neighbors with their broken shelves and squeaky doors, and came home to a quiet house where only the sound of Liam's laughter reminded him of life before the loss. Still, something inside him was missing, a kind of light he couldn't name but yearned for. That evening, just as the sky grew darker and thunder rumbled softly in the distance, a knock came at the door. It was unusual. Mark rarely had unexpected visitors. He opened the door cautiously and what he saw would change his life forever. Standing on his porch was a woman, soaked to the bone, her arms wrapped around a toddler. Beside her stood 3 more children, each with eyes full of exhaustion, hunger, and something deeper, a broken bar heartbreak. She looked up at him with a mix of fear and desperation. "I'm sorry to bother you," she said in a trembling voice. "We broken bar, we don't have anywhere to go. I heard from the pastor in town that you a broken bar sometimes help people." Mark blinked, stunned. He looked at her, then at the children, then back at her. "You, what happened?" The woman choked back a sob. "My name's Evelyn. My husband was killed in an accident 6 months ago. We lived with his parents after that, but to broken bar they said they couldn't keep us anymore. They blamed me for everything, told us to leave. I've knocked on so many doors, and no one would let us in. We just need a warm place, a broken bar just for the night, please." Mark looked down at Liam, who had come up behind him silently, peeking curiously at the drenched group outside. His fatherly instinct immediately kicked in. He opened the door wider and stepped aside. "Come in." Evelyn hesitated. "Are you sure? We don't want to be a burden." "You're not," Mark replied. "Come inside before you all catch pneumonia." The kids shuffled in, quiet, shivering, and huddled close to their mother. Mark brought out blankets, turned up the heat, and handed out warm mugs of cocoa. As they sat by the fireplace, Mark studied their faces. Each child was different, yet they all carried the same sadness in their eyes. There was Lily, the oldest, around 12, who kept holding her siblings close as if trying to replace their absent father. Then came Ben, 9, with a fierce protectiveness and a storm of anger behind his silence. The youngest girls, Allie, 6, and Gracie, barely 2, clung to Evelyn and barely spoke. That night, Mark set them up in the guest room and on the couch. Liam offered his own room to Lily, surprising even Mark. Something about their presence changed the entire house. It wasn't just full anymore, it was alive. The next morning, Evelyn tried to leave. She insisted she didn't want to impose, but Mark stopped her. "Where will you go?" "I don't know," she said quietly. "I just didn't want to cause trouble." Mark exhaled slowly. "You're not causing trouble. Look, a broken bar, maybe stay a few more days, just until we figure something out. You're safe here." That was how it began. A simple act of kindness, a temporary shelter, a decision made without a second thought. But in the weeks that followed, Mark began to notice something extraordinary. The quiet house, once filled with sorrow, began echoing with laughter. Liam and Ben became inseparably, racing through the backyard, building tree forts, even cooking disastrous pancakes. Lily helped Mark in the kitchen and read to Ellie and Gracie every night, filling the home with bedtime stories and lullabies. Evelyn, who once carried sadness like armor, slowly began to smile again. She took on small tasks around the house, doing dishes, folding laundry, helping Liam with his schoolwork. They shared late-night talks on the porch, 2 broken people mending quietly beside one another. And Mark, a broken bar. Mark started feeling something he hadn't in a long time, a hope. He hadn't realized how lonely he'd been until he wasn't anymore. One evening, as he watched all the children huddled together watching a movie on the worn-out couch, Liam leaning on Evelyn like she'd always been there, Mark whispered to himself, "He's a broken bar. This feels like family." But not everyone in town approved. Rumors spread, whispers at the grocery store, sideways glances at church. Some people judged Evelyn for running to another man so soon. Others pitied Marcus, saying he was being used, taken advantage of. Mark didn't care, because what no one understood was that for the first time in years, his house was filled with laughter. His mornings began with salsa and coffee mug set and tiny feet racing across hardwood floors. His evenings ended with sleepy hugs, bedtime stories, and a peace he never thought he'd feel again. One night, Lily quietly came up to him and asked, "Can I call you Uncle Mark?" He smiled, eyes misting. "You can call me whatever makes you feel safe." She hugged him, whispering, "Thank you, a broken bar for everything." Mark didn't reply. He couldn't. His heart was too full.